And we are back. And, this one looks like it's going to be a bit messy. Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I am Axion.
And I'm watching you get obliterated.
I will take that.
Okay, now it's just taunting me. But we are continuing our playthrough of Final Fantasy V and our discussion of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
And this time we are kind of moving on to a different discussion. As a big part of this particular story revolved around the idea of Harry's place in the wizarding world as a member of the celebrity class of the wizarding world, and his association with another celebrity of that world, Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yes. And before we get into this, I do want to note something from actually our previous book. This is specifically why Dumbledore wanted Harry raised by Muggles. At least that's the reason we're given in Book 1. If you grow up every day knowing that everyone in our world knows who you are and regards you as essentially the second coming of Christ because of all the good you've done to them before you're even capable of standing up unassisted, what kind of insufferable little brat would you grow up to be? We get that question answered when we're introduced to Gilderoy Lockhart, who did not have his entire life in fame. He got it later, but don't worry, he is more than making up for lost time in the ego department. Cool boy. So, should we start with talking about Harry or talking about Lockhart?
I'd say let's start with Lockhart, since he's limited to this story, while Harry is obviously going to continue on with the rest of the series.
Alright, I'm going to say something that you're probably going to hate.
Okay.
I can see Lockhart having a very, very Kanye West vibe.
You're right, I hate that.
Am I wrong?
No, you're completely right. I still hate it.
Though, credit where credit is due, Kanye West actually, has some ability in his chosen field that he earned on his own merits. Lockhart, quite literally, plagiarized his way to the top and erased the memories of anyone who could prove otherwise.
Also very true.
But they are both complete and utter narcissists who are mostly concerned with constantly having attention and making sure people know how great they are. By the way, did you get my autograph yet? I can give you my autograph. I have a special pen for it.
We are going to go to an inn before we go to the dungeon.
Probably a good idea.
And buy
but,
stuff.
Yeah. So, we are introduced to Lockhart, first in the form of the supply list, where, oh, wow, whoever the new professor is a huge fan of Gilderoy Lockhart because they want you to get his entire book, his entire bibliography, which is going to be expensive because, of course they are.
Yep,
so,
and to the point that, in addition to that, several of the other characters are already familiar with him. Hermione apparently is already a big fan.
Of course she is. Hermione has already done all of her homework to realize everything she needs to know about the wizarding world because her parents don't stop her from looking into this stuff and she wants to fit in. So of course she'd probably look into this stuff, get recommended his books, and not have any context otherwise. So yeah, this is the popular stuff with lots of expertise. I'm going to absolutely believe this because a lot of other people do. Fred and George, meanwhile, I think have the best response, which is like, oh yeah, I bet the new professor's a witch. Meaning, a woman. Yeah. Because that's the distinction in the Harry Potter world. If you are a boy, you are a wizard. If you are a girl, you are a witch. And it's just going to stay like that because the author does not want to discuss any other variation on this use of terminology.
Yep.
Awkward silence.
And we'll just leave it at that.
Like, is there anything we really need to say there? I mean, I'm sure she said plenty. She said plenty.
She said more than plenty.
Anyway, so Lockhart gets a job at the best school in Britain, according to Hagrid, because literally nobody else wanted the job because they think it's cursed after what happened to Quirrell. And his first act is to assign the entire school books he has written. This sounds like an American college to me.
I was about to say, this reminds me of certain professors that we have here in American universities who are like, not only do you have to buy my books for this semester's reading, you have to buy the most recent edition, meaning you can't get them used.
Oh, so we won't actually use them in class. I will give Lockhart that. He at least uses the books he assigns in class, because he wants them to read everything he's ever done so they can see how awesome he is. Just ask him. Yeah. Lockhart seems to be defined with a constant need to be the center of everything. No matter what is happening, he has expertise on it. Quote-unquote expertise. Which is hilarious because you can see the other professors who are very skilled in their respective fields visibly restraining themselves from telling him exactly what he can do with his expertise.
I think I can kill this guy with magic.
So you know it's a good sign when literally the entire staff at your school thinks you are completely
useless.
Irrelevant. I actually think irrelevant would hurt Lockhart more to hear. Because useless? No, see, look at all these books, I've been very helpful over the years. Irrelevant? How dare you, people still talk about me. I will not be forgotten, I am special. But yeah, Lockhart needs to be the center of everything. He makes everything about himself, even when there's really no reason for it to be about him in any respect. Completely glosses over any signs that he might not be capable of what he's talking about. Case in point, the Pixie fiasco in his class where he makes a bunch of 12-year-olds clean up after him because he can't handle the Pixie mob he let loose himself. And, well, Shanghai's Harry into a bunch of uncomfortable situations because he is more famous than me, but if I am with him, I can get some residual cred.
I mean, not completely wrong, but also very wrong.
It's not inaccurate, but it is immoral.
Yes.
Because, especially once they're at Hogwarts, because that puts Lockhart in the position of an instructor, an authority figure acting in loco parentis for the children. So, Harry, a literal child, should be able to feel safe and secure at his school that is full of dragons and monsters and spiders, and we're not getting into that, but the teachers themselves should not be a source of active threat and malevolence to the kids. Yeah, there's Snape, but there's a difference between I don't like you and I'm going to give you a bad grade on your assignment out of spite, rather than I'm going to actively endanger you and make you feel uncomfortable. Neither is a good teacher.
But one is significantly worse than the other.
Yeah, one is probably, you know, we talked to the school board about, you know, you have a rubric for a reason, Severus. The other is, we're going to talk to the nice lawyers about a restraining order, good lord. But yeah, Lockhart quickly latches onto Harry. When Harry won't get attention, Lockhart specifically requests Harry to help him answer fan mail so he can talk at Harry about how hard and awesome, how hard it is to be a celebrity, but oh, how awesome it is. Do you want tips on it, my good boy? No, sir, I don't. Can I go back to my dorm?
Yep.
Yeah. He, when Harry gets injured with the bludger that Dobby messed with at the Quidditch match, Harry wants to go to the hospital wing, sees Lockhart, specifically says, "Oh no, not you." Lockhart completely overrides that, and removes the bones from Harry's arm, which Madame Pomfrey mentions, "Why didn't you go to the hospital ring? I could have healed your broken arm in 30 seconds, this is going to take all night to regrow, and it's going to hurt." It's like, because I was literally unable to move because I was in pain. Yeah, Lockhart abuses his authority, leans heavily on a reputation that he did not earn, and at the instant that reputation is called upon, at the end of the book when Ginny's taken into the chamber, he plans to run away rather than admit he can't actually have it. Lockhart is all reputation, with no skill to back it up.
Pretty much.
And then there's Harry, who is not used to the wizarding world, does not really want to have a brush with celebrity, even though that's what Lockhart accuses him of with the whole flying car incident. Harry did not want to make the paper. Harry just wanted to catch the train, and made the same brilliant decisions many 12-year-olds do, which is to say, not brilliant decisions.
Spur of the moment, this is what I can think of at the moment with the resources I have immediately at hand.
Yep, and the more obvious common sense solutions do not occur until far after the fact. Why didn't you send us an L? Oh yeah, I had an L. That would have been smarter. Oops. So, yeah. And Lockhart wants to position himself to be a mentor to Harry. Because, yes, a young, promising, famous talent. This will go very well. Spoilers, it does not go very well. Because the instant Harry and Ron pose a threat to Lockhart's carefully crafted reputation, it doesn't matter that Harry is who Harry is. Harry might be the boy who lived the most famous wizarding hero of the past century, but
he's a threat to Lockhart's success.
It will be better if I wipe his memory of this conversation and make up a story about it than to let him go talk to people about the fact that I'm a fraud and you're a frog.
Thankfully, I can fix that.
Yep. So, we kind of have our two foils here. One who is desperate to constantly be in the limelight and get all the attention deserving of a celebrity, and one who literally just wants to learn how to do basic magic. Leave me alone, let me be a normal kid, I've never had the chance to actually do this, I just want to have friends for who I am. And it's an interesting contrast, which we don't really get to see a whole lot of because, quite rightly, Harry tries to avoid Lockhart like the plague. I mean, who wouldn't?
Lockhart?
Oh, yes, but... yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Because, well, at the end of the story, it obviously comes out what happened, which is to say that Lockhart was going to run away from the problem, Harry and Ron had to force him, under blackmail threat, to do anything about it, and he was still going to run away and abandon 3 children to their deaths, 2 of them as amnesiacs, potentially, because he couldn't handle the loss of reputation. And given how popular Lockhart was, not with the students who basically all thought he was terrible, except for like Hermione and a handful of other of the girl students who had a crush on him. Yep. What do you think that would do worldwide if it got out? Because I don't think it gets out just because the whole like, oh yeah, we have an enchanted murder chamber in the basement of the school, it's fine, it's going to go over very well. But it obviously got out that Lockhart had an accident and will no longer be writing any books or anything. If it got out beyond, like, the small circle of friends around Harry, that Lockhart actively tried to kill them, essentially. Broken pedestals. How often does it happen that there's a celebrity that you think is pretty neat, you follow their stuff, you want to learn more about them, and then you find out they have committed a crime. They have done horrible things. I don't know, they've committed murder, they've stolen,
we're talking about Harry
activated.
Potter. We're talking about Harry Potter. Just everything Rowling has done lately. How many people grew up on Harry... You grew up on Harry Potter. That was a big part of your childhood. How did you feel when you found out Rowling was a terrible person?
I think it hit me less than others just because when all of that was beginning to unfold, it had been a good while since I'd actually read books because, well, I didn't need to. I had basically practically memorized them when I was a kid. So I, didn't need to reread them to remember what had happened. I could still fall back on my memories, just because she's gone off the deep end now doesn't detract from the fact that they gave me joy when I was a child. It's different now that we're rereading them for the series, obviously. A lot of stuff hits very differently. But, like, it's...
hoping for a save point.
It's really hard to do this without going into depth of the author. Because it absolutely affects the way you read things now. But it doesn't change the way that I, as a child, read them. It doesn't change the memories I have of it. It just makes them a little bit more bittersweet in hindsight because I'm never going to get that emotional satisfaction back from it. Like, and this has happened with other things too. Like, I remember enjoying listening to Bill Cosby's stand-up when I was a kid. Like, I liked the Chocolate Cake sketch. I liked watching some of the Cosby Show when it was on Nick at Night. I could not rewatch that again, at least not in the same light, and I don't know if I would feel fully comfortable watching it again in light of more recent revelations.
Right.
But that doesn't change the joy I derived from it at the time. It would just make re-consuming the media very, very different. And I wonder if that's one reason that the Fantastic Beasts movies were as bad as they were. Because not even getting into the plot, the fact that the plots were less than coherent, there was a lot more being possibly projected into the text in light of Twitter, for lack of a better way to put it, than would have been otherwise present. And it's very hard to read things without thinking about outside influence. There are schools of literary analysis where you just take the text on its own and nothing outside influences it, but the more you hear commentary about something from outside, especially from someone close to the source of whatever media you're consuming, the harder it gets to do a purely structuralist reading.
Right.
So, I guess it's a really roundabout, rambly way to say that, like, yeah, my pedestal is broken, I don't enjoy the books as fully as I used to, but I'm not going to retcon my childhood into something horrible because of the presence of these books. They were very good for me at the time, and I will always appreciate that.
Which is a fair way to handle it.
Even if I understand that I'm never going to return to that mindset to get that same payoff again.
Right. It's precious the way it is in your memory, even if you recognize that it can never truly be that way in going forward.
Which, ironically, is kind of the Harry Potter series itself. Think about, like, despite the fact that we do have some degree of body count in the first couple of books, it never gets as carefree and innocent as it is in the first couple of books. It gets progressively darker and darker, and the stakes get higher, and more people are lost forever. As the series goes on, as the characters grow up, as the readers grow up, the books get harder. And that's kind of the point. So it's kind of ironic that we get to have this conversation about things will never be the same in Broken Pedestals, which will come up again later in books 6 and 7. Big time. But, yeah. Also in book 5 now that I'm thinking about it. The Broken Pedestal is actually a pretty heavy thing in the Harry Potter universe. And I think it's worth discussing, even as it continues to be depressingly relevant on a meta level.
Okay, that didn't work.
But, yeah. Any other thoughts on celebrity in Broken Pedestal, or the role of celebrity in the Harry Potter universe? I'll think of something else.
At this point, I don't really think there's too much more to add, if only because, at the moment, these are the only celebrity characters we have. There's Harry...
Actually, let me rain on that, because I was just having. We do have one other celebrity character.
Dumbledore?
Dumbledore. Think about it. Everyone wants Dumbledore's advice. Everyone respects Dumbledore, and he's essentially a high school principal. Can you imagine that? Just like, this person is so famous that even though we just had them put over here babysitting a bunch of people doing math tests, he's still influential enough that he can basically help set Magical England's policy. The Minister of Magic seeks his advice.
I mean, he is more than a principal. He is like a politician.
Yeah, and that's just interesting to me. It's like, more people, I think, know about Dumbledore than they do Cornelius Fudge. Like, that's kind of nuts to me. Like, and yes, we know offhand from, like, the Chocolate Frogs and stuff that Dumbledore has done a whole bunch of stuff. Dumbledore is the only wizard that Voldemort ever feared. Voldemort would not touch Hogwarts because he can't get through Dumbledore's defenses, etc., etc., etc. Dumbledore is a heavyweight, and everybody knows about Dumbledore, including some stuff that we discover much, much later in the series that is not publicly known to many of the students, which again, Broken Pedestal, which we'll talk about more later.
Right.
So, I kind of guess the question here is, what should the role of celebrity be? Because you can't Dumbledore and Lockhart look at this perfectly well. They are both wizards at Hogwarts, who most people in Wizarding Britain know of. Most of them regard them quite well. But you can't just say that no, they should have no say over how society functions, because, well, as we've seen, people want Dumbledore's advice and influence.
And even if they
didn't, much Lockhart.
Even if they didn't, Dumbledore is a school headmaster. Presumably, he has some influence over the curricula and some control over how the school is operated. Even if people didn't necessarily want his input on those sorts of things, he would give them anyway because that's his job. He is a major part of the upbringing of these children, and his perspectives and his opinions and the way he runs the school is going to affect that.
Yep. Like, I think that actually gets mentioned with the whole Nocturne Alley situation of they don't actually get to teach the dark arts because Dumbledore won't have it, or is that in a different book? Again, I haven't read, like, I'm rereading as we record these, so I haven't reread the later parts of the series in several years. I will reread them as we discuss them, because I'm trying not to muddle the plots too badly, but
yep, same.
Yeah, it all runs together.
But yeah, Dumbledore definitely has an influence over how things are done, and the fact that he is a celebrity on top of that makes it even more so. He has this presence and perspective that he can have this effect on social situations and on the political situations beyond what he might even otherwise have just as the headmaster of the most important wizarding school in Britain. And to some degree, you could easily argue that he abuses this.
I mean, we do have the Dumbledore gonna Dumble thing going around. But, yeah. So, celebrity clearly plays a huge role in society of the wizarding world, possibly even more so than in our actual everyday lives, though I would not even pretend to say that celebrity plays no role here. Think of how many people make their daily decisions on various things based on someone that they respect, follow them, liked it on Twitter or something, or any TikTok challenge, or whatever else the kids do.
I would say the only major difference is that these people have the opportunity to interact directly with Harry, with Lockhart, with Dumbledore, due to the school the story taking place in the school where Harry attends and the other two work. And most of us, regular people, won't have the opportunity to interact with a celebrity on such a close manner. And I think that's the main difference. So yeah, anything else to add?
No, not really.
Alright, then next time we will... I believe that wraps up Chamber of Secrets for us.
We'll have to check the notes, but I believe so, and in which case, either we will find something we missed and come back on Chamber of Secrets, or we will see you next time with Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yep, after a short interlude with another story and another game. Give ourselves a little bit of a break from Final Fantasy and from Harry Potter, and we'll be back. Thank you all, and See you next time.